morning, everybody. It is November. It is January 11th. It's nice to see everybody. I hope we are settling into the new year. Happy New Year if you missed last week. Excited to see you here today. It's been an interesting couple of days that we've had in the United States as far as our democracy is concerned, as far as elections are concerned. It seems kind of crazy that we're still talking about elections and it's January. Maybe that's why I immediately thought it was November. But it's just interesting how that happened last week. Not here to make any political commentary, not here to make any divisive decisions about politics or any platform about it. But I do think there's some really important lessons that we can learn from what happened last week with the insurrection at the Capitol and with all of the violence that happened. And I just think about what happens within our organizational context, what happens within our business, and how those differences manifest themselves within a group environment. But then there's also differences that we have with clients and customers. And when we make those transactions and make those conversations much easier and we make them more clear, then that helps everybody in the process and we avoid that conflict and hopefully violent conflict, and we make things a lot easier for everybody that's involved. So first of all, I want to talk about how there's a clear in the insurrection at the Capitol last week with the destroying of the Capitol steps and the riot on the Capitol steps and the danger that the people in the Senate, the people in the House, and all the workers were in, and the police. It's a known fact that we're going to have some differences in our opinions, and it's a known fact that we're going to have differences in our perspectives and our backgrounds and the way that we approach things. And whether it be political differences or whether it be just communication differences or value differences, we're always going to be confronted by those differences in our lives. I've been in college debate for over 20 years, and there's always going to be differences, and yet we need to be in a space where we can. The thing I've learned from college debate is that at least provided a space or a platform where we could have a discussion about those differences. And yes, it was in a competitive setting, but we allowed that back and forth and that critical exploration of issues, critical exploration of topics. And we did it with civility, and we did it with respect of our clients and of our opponents. And we can learn a lot from that transaction or that idea in our own businesses, and just understanding that yes, there will be differences out there. We do have differences. We might have differences in the way that we approach things than our boss does, or we might have differences in the way we approach things than our clients do. But we need to embrace those differences, have conversations about it, be comfortable creating a space where those differences can exist. And we can leverage that opportunity by engaging in discussion and by accepting other people and accepting those ideas. We don't want our conflicts and our differences in opinion and our differences in the workplace and even in a communication transaction to be seen as conflict. We want to open the dialogue, have conversations about that, be okay that not everybody is on the same page with us, and embrace those differences. When we don't embrace those differences, things like last week happened where we have these two polarized sides, and then there's a violence, and it's just really challenging. So we want to, in the business and work environment, as we build our own business, and particularly as we build our own brand, being open to different perspectives and articulating that there's a space for those differences to exist is an important place for us to be, particularly in today's society where things seem to be so tense. The other thing that really stood out for me last week in just thinking about the event that happened, and that, again, not a political, not saying anything political, whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump or whatever that is, that how important it is to have a clear transition strategy. There's this transition strategies that happen, in the government, where there's a transition teams that are in place that we make sure that things move to the next president in a very efficient manner, so we're not disrupting any policies and we're not disrupting any movements that are happening, particularly in today's age when we're dealing with this worldwide global pandemic. There's a lot of things that need to stay in place, and there's a lot of things, situations, and that turnover needs to be improved upon. So having a clear transition strategy in politics is really important. But also think about all of the multiple transitions that happen within your own business, or even think about the transitions that happen in your own communication with your clients. There's multiple points throughout your client relationship where those transition happens. So there's a period of transition when we're engaging with the customer, getting to know the customer, getting to know the product, and getting to know their service, a very informative section. But then there's the transition to the selling piece, that you are trying to sell the product or the service that you have to solve a problem for your client or potential client. And that transition in strategy and that transition in communication, the more clear that is, and the more open that is, and particularly because there's a difference in agenda at that point, it just eases the transaction, it eases the communication, allowing for that free flow of information, allows for that clear transition strategy to be able to make it easier on the person that's selling, whether you own a business or whether you're receiving that business. That negotiation, where it's not necessarily a negotiation, but where it's an establishment of your service and the value of your service, and making sure that is clear, makes it a lot easier to go into the selling phase of what we do within our business. So just think about how, I think the events that happened last week showed that if there is a transition strategy, that it's not something that's really clear, and that it would really help not only the people that are in the Capitol, but it would help citizens know what's going on. But to take those lessons and take that within our own lives and within our own businesses and even within our own workplaces, having those clear strategies and having a clear advocacy or a clear transaction to make it easier for the people in those transactions makes it easier on you as a business owner. And then there's no ambiguity, there's no questioning, or if there is questions, then they're already answered because you've already outlined the strategy for creating that clear transition strategy. So, challenging time here in the U.S. and interesting events that happened last week. And I think we can take some things from them to help think about what we can do in our own business practices. It's not time to separate from the differences. It's time to embrace those differences. Talk about them. Come up with common solutions. Engage ideas rather than separate those ideas. Set the stage for that to happen, whether it be with your clients or coworkers or people that you work with, whatever that is. The differences are going to happen. So let's embrace them in a way that's civil and acceptant. And that is key, but also think about how your transition strategy, whether you're transitioning to another job or whether there's a transition within your business of a new manager, or whether you're even having a simple transaction with a client. When there's a clear transition strategy and a clear movement through the communication, then it makes it just that much easier for the ease in transaction. So, just a few reflections on last week. Didn't want to dig into it too much, but I think there are some important lessons to learn about how we run our business and how we think about conflict and how we think about differences. So I hope you have a great week. Motivation Monday. I'm here to offer a few business tips from an academic perspective, from a coaching perspective, to hopefully frame your week, help move you through that. I hope you have a great week. It's hard to believe we're in the middle of January already, but here we are. So I hope you have a great week, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.